public hearing to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
D.H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. We are going to, again, have the public hearing tonight, and this is your opportunity to speak to this map. Mr. Heath is going to talk a little bit about that in just a few moments, but I will say that as we get into our discussions and your opportunities to talk, what we're going to ask is that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. We will, you'll be up here making those comments. Got it? It took me a great deal of time to make these this afternoon, so work with me on this. So at this time, I will turn it over to our consultant who helped us with this, Bob Heath. Or GK, would you like to, maybe you'd like to preface, make some beginning comments.
Your Honor, I'd like to say that as you previously said, this is a public hearing, that there's not going to be any official action requested by the Commissioner's Court at this time. Our goal here is to hear the comments from the public as it relates to the various maps. The way we're going to go through that is that we're going to ask Mr. Heath, who is our general counsel on this issue, to address the court and the audience to make statements, and then we'll turn it back over to you, and you can start calling those individuals who care to give comment. Mr. Heath.
Is this on?
Yes.
Okay. As an initial housekeeping measure, I want to call your attention, and you've probably seen that we have an American Sign Language interpreter who is here. If anyone needs her services, you can see her to my right. Additionally, we have a Spanish translator. I'm going to ask her to come forward right now and indicate her availability.
Buenas noches. Si hay alguna persona que necesita que se le vaya interpretando la audiencia esta noche, háganmelo saber, que atrás dispongo de audífonos para pasárselos e irle interpretando todo el proceso.
Thank you. So if anyone needs her assistance, please call that to her attention, and she will provide Spanish translation. Now, I want to give a little brief overview, and I'm going to try to be brief. We have a lot of people here tonight. I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to speak. We certainly appreciate your interest, your assuming the civic responsibility to participate. That's very important. It's certainly important to the Commissioner's Court. We are here to hear you. We're not here to tell you about different things. We're here to see what you have to say so the Commissioner's Court can listen to that and consider that when they ultimately make their decision on the Justice Precinct maps. First, I want to give a very brief description of what the legal framework is. One of the first things we think about in redistricting is one person, one vote, having districts that are equal in population. And when we considered the Commissioner precincts, we looked very carefully at that and drew those to be equal in population. With Justice precincts, they are not covered by that requirement. They are not required to have equal numbers of population, and these do not. Second, we have to look at the Voting Rights Act. And the first thing we look at under the Voting Rights Act is Section 5. Section 5 is the provision that applies to certain states and localities across the country, one of which is the state of Texas and all the subdivisions in it, that says that before you adopt an election practice, standard, or procedure, and redistricting certainly fits within that category, you have to submit it either to the Department of Justice or to a 3-judge federal district court in the District of Columbia for approval before it can be implemented. So what will happen whenever the Commissioner's Court adopts a map, it will be submitted to the Department of Justice. The Commissioner's map, which was adopted a few weeks ago, is now before the Department of Justice. Whenever a Justice Precinct map, whichever one is determined to be the one that the Commissioner's Court adopts, that will be submitted to the Department of Justice. What the Department will be looking at and what we want to make sure that we are following is the standard that the new plan may not retrogress the ability of minorities to participate in the electoral process and elect representatives of their choice. You cannot go backwards. You can't make it worse than it was before for minorities. Now, that gets into a lot of complications about when populations change and so forth, but that's the basic standard, is we don't want to retrogress. And so we're trying to draw a plan that does not retrogress. The second thing that we have to worry about is Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, and that applies to everybody, every jurisdiction in the country, and it says that you cannot draw a plan that discriminates against the ability of minority groups to participate equally in the political process. So we want to make sure that we don't draw a plan that discriminates. One of the things that they look at would be if you crack or pack. Cracking is where you take a concentrated minority district or group of minority voters and you split it into two districts when, if they were left in a single district, they could elect the candidate of their choice. If split between two, they cannot. Packing is where you take a concentration of minority voters and you fill up a district so that, maybe it's 90% or 95% minority, when if you made it 60% or 55%, they could have influence in other districts as well. And so we're trying to draw maps that don't do that. So those are the things, the legal issues that we're looking at. Now, we have before you a plan, and if you look over to your left or to the left side of the room, the one on the left, and it says Draft Plan A Revised. That's the one that the commissioners are using as the illustrative plan that we put out there to have comment on. And that's one that we believe meets the requirements of Section 2 and Section 5. We also ask if anyone wants to submit a plan that they should submit that to us by the close of this meeting, and we have gotten one from members of the community, and we have that on a large poster, and it says Proposed Minority Opportunity Precinct 7, and it's the one on the right of the two. Basically, and the proponents of that can explain it in more detail, but as a general matter, it takes precincts 2 and 7, which currently are more horizontal in nature, going from east to west, and it changes to make them more vertical in nature, so they go more north to south. And there may be some other changes here or there, but as a basic matter, that's the difference between the two plans. So, as I said, we're here to listen to you. As Judge Whitley said, there's a 3-minute limit so that everybody has a chance to talk. And with that, I am going to leave it to Judge Whitley, and he can begin calling people to speak.
Before we do that, I'm going to offer any of the court members, if any of you have anything that you would like to comment on at this particular point in time.
If I may. I have spent my whole life fighting for voting rights for all people. As a child, I marched with my family in support of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. I have testified in both Austin and Washington in favor of voting rights for all people. And to me, that means the opportunity of every group to be able to have the opportunity to elect the candidate of his or her choice. Now, I understand that in America, we always need a boogeyman. And if I'm to be the boogeyman in this case, so be it. I understand that an email went across the county today saying Commissioner Roy Brooks is trying to draw an all-minority district. Wrong. I didn't draw this map. I didn't cause this map to be drawn. Had nothing to do with it. But as I said, if there's a need for a boogeyman, I'll step up to the lick log and say, yeah, I'll be it. Now, the first time I saw this map was yesterday. I have not had a chance to compare it thoroughly with the illustrative plan. All I can say about it is that, like Bob Heath says, it seems to change the orientation of 2 and 7 from east-west to north-south. I assume that that has some implications upon Hispanic voting opportunities. I accept that as a matter of faith. But until I have a chance to compare these maps and see what they do, not only in Districts 2 and 7, but across the rest of the county, I'm not prepared to say I support either one. I need to study it. Now, I've got another problem. I have served for the last year on a Department of Health and Human Services committee in Washington that is redrawing the rules about how medically underserved communities are designated in America. And that has profound implications for this entire community because there are pockets all over Tarrant County, black, white, Anglo, Hispanic, Asian, that are underserved. And we need to make sure that when these rules are rewritten, they reflect what's best for Tarrant County. The last meeting of that committee starts at 8 o'clock in the morning in Washington. So I've got a 9:10 flight out of here tonight so I can be there at 8 o'clock in the morning in Rockville, Maryland, to protect the rights of the citizens of Tarrant County. I hope that you understand that that is an important responsibility. It's one that I have taken seriously for the past year, and I think it would be a dereliction for me not to attend that series of meetings. Now, having said that, my Chief of Staff, Crystal James, is here. She will be taking notes for me. There is a tape of this meeting, which I will review carefully, so I'm not going to miss a thing. Speak your mind. Tell us what you think is best. And at the proper time, we're going to vote. And some people are going to be happy and some aren't. I can't tell you which groups those are going to be right now. I guess that's about all I've got to say on the subject. Judge, thank you for your forbearance, and thank you all for understanding that I gotta go.
Judge, if I could just mention one thing which I neglected to say, and to follow up on what Commissioner Brooks said, this is also being taken, everything you say is being taken down by a court reporter and will be transcribed so that you can also not just hear it but read it, and that will be available for the Department of Justice as well.
Let me just say one more thing. I thought it was important enough for me to be here, even though I have to go. It was important enough to me to show up and show my respect and support of the process. That's why I'm here. But I still got to go.
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks. Anybody else wishing to make any opening comments? Hearing none, then I'm going to go ahead and begin. As I look around the room, I see several elected officials. I appreciate you being here tonight. I have had only 2 who have signed up to speak, and so those are the 2 I'm going to start off with. The first one is Constable Sergio De Leon. Sergio, come forward, please.
Good evening, Your Honor, members of the court. As Commissioner Brooks is leaving, I also want to thank him for requesting that this meeting be held in the evening so that we could have participation in the community here. I represent JP Constable 5 in the capacity as constable, and I don't think that there's much that's going to be done, if anything, to Precinct 5, and so I'm happy with that. I'm glad. Now, I will say, however, with all of the other governmental entities redistricting, that I've seen minority neighborhoods cracked and sliced and diced and separated to dilute minority voting strength. And whatever this court does, please do not do that to any of the JP Constable district that you vote upon. Thank you very much.
Next is Wendy Burgess. Maybe not. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Wendy Burgess, and I am a business owner, a citizen, a taxpayer, and also a Mansfield City Council member. I come to you in this public session to voice my personal opinion. I have concerns regarding the JP and Constable proposed redistricting. On September 6th, Commissioner Brooks stated that he wished to ensure the minorities are represented equally in that area. I would remind you that those areas are currently represented by a minority constable and a minority commissioner. The new map proposed today, also not available for public review in advance, shows misunderstanding of the dramatic and unnecessary costs related to changing these precincts. I understand also that the county funds the JP and constables based on workload measures. I ask you to remember that. And I would also charge you with the task of proving to the taxpayers how this would meet that criteria. The Arlington and Mansfield area has a fantastic relationship with our JPs and our constables, and we wish to continue that. I urge you to adopt the original Plan A as proposed 2 weeks ago. You have also agreed in statements tonight that it does meet the requirements. Thank you for being good guardians of my taxpayer dollars.
Thank you. Next is former State Representative Chris Turner.
Good evening, Your Honor, members of the court. Thank you for your time this evening and the opportunity for myself and other citizens to come and express their viewpoints on this important matter. Judge, as you alluded to, I previously had the privilege of representing a significant portion of Arlington in the Texas House of Representatives, including part of the area we're discussing here this evening. And I know from firsthand experience that this is a diverse and unique community with unique needs. That's why I'm here tonight, speak in support of creation of a new minority opportunity JP Constable Precinct in southeast Tarrant County. I want to share some numbers with you. In the last decade, the Hispanic, African American, and Asian populations in Tarrant County have grown significantly. And consider these numbers. Tarrant County, since 2001 to the 2010 census, Tarrant County's overall population has increased by 25%. The Anglo population increased by only 17%. The African American population, however, increased by 45%. The Asian population by 61%, and persons of Hispanic origin a whopping 69%. So it's only right and fair, in my opinion, that a new JP Constable map be reflective of those tremendous demographic shifts. In a county where the bulk of the population growth has occurred in minority populations, it's only fair that minority voters have increased opportunities to elect the candidate of their choice at all levels of government, including the JP Constable level. In Tarrant County, where nearly 50% of the population is African American, Hispanic, Asian, or other non-Anglos, it's wrong that minority voters only have the opportunity to elect the candidate of their choice in just 25% of the JP Constable precincts, as is the case currently with the current map. This court, however, has the opportunity to ensure that this will not continue to be the case for another 10 years by passing a new map that adds a third minority opportunity district. Many of the issues addressed by JPs and constables, such as school truancy, for just one example, are especially pertinent in this part of Tarrant County. Citizens of East Arlington and Grand Prairie should have a fair opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice to serve them and to meet those unique needs. I hope this court will give every consideration to a plan that gives them that opportunity, and I hope you will adopt a map that creates a third minority opportunity JP Constable precinct. I appreciate your time and attention this evening.
Thank you. Vicki Barnett. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Vicki Barnett. I'm also a candidate for the new District 101. And on behalf of the NAACP, we ask that you create a minority opportunity precinct for Justice of the Peace and Constable in the Southeast Tarrant County. Southeast Tarrant County is an emerging minority community made up of African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians. This area is a compact area centered around Highway 360 in East Arlington and West Grand Prairie. This area shares communities of interest concerning certain cohesive neighborhoods: Arlington ISD, income level, high percentages of families that use public schools, increasing economic opportunity, and housing. The NAACP understands a Constable and Justice of the Peace precinct has been proposed, referred to as the Sutton Mesa Plan, in which African American and Hispanics would make up 58.4% of the precinct. Furthermore, African American, Hispanics, and Asians would make up 68.8% of the precinct. These minority communities of interest were recognized by the 85th Texas Legislature, which created State House District 101, which shares similar demographics and identical communities of interest. The NAACP supports the Sutton Mesa Plan because the proposed map protects the right of a compact, sizable minority community protected by the Voting Rights Act to elect a JP and constable of their choice. On behalf of the NAACP, I ask that you not dilute the minority voting strength, and I hope you will adopt the Sutton Mesa Plan, which is the proposed Minority Opportunity Precinct 7 map to the right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barnett. Silk Littlejohn.
Your Honor, as we have one speaker coming to the podium, if you might direct them that if they're going to be reading the statement, if they could slow down just a little bit so that our stenographer can record that, please.
Good evening.
You might also say, there's new people, but they have to fill out a form.
Now, if you haven't filled out an audience participation form and you wish to speak, please do so and turn it in to Mr. Manion. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're fine. My name is Silk Littlejohn Gamble. I am the president of the Arlington NAACP Unit 6298. I am asking that you support the Arlington branch NAACP plan. We ask that you create a minority opportunity for a precinct for Justice of the Peace and a Constable of Southeast Tarrant County. These minority communities of interest were recognized by the 85th Texas Legislature, which created State House District 101, which shares similar demographics and identical communities of interest. We hope you will support this plan and the Sutton Mesa plan. This plan seeks to protect the rights of compact, sizable minorities, which are protected by the Voting Rights Act. This plan allows these communities of interest to elect a justice of the peace and constable of their choice. Please give all the foregoing facts due consideration, and please do the right thing. Adopt our plan, the Arlington Branch NLC plan, along with the Sutton Mesa plan. We need this vote. It is very imperative that every individual has an opportunity, a great opportunity, to vote those of their choice. These maps propose that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holder. Luis Castillo.
Good evening, Honorable Commissioners Court. My name is Luis Castillo, and I represent Arlington LULAC Council 4353. On behalf of Arlington LULAC Council 4353, we respectfully ask that you support the proposed minority precinct. This is not really, it's been labeled a minority issue, and sometimes it has a tendency of having a negative connotation with the majority. But basically, this issue is about representation, about opportunity, it's about empowerment. Years ago, some policymakers, just like yourselves, provided a mechanism and a process for you all to sit there, and you represent your respective constituents. We're asking this Commissioner's Court to do the same for the Hispanic and minority population. The driving factor behind redistricting efforts at all levels of the government is in part attributed to the tremendous Hispanic population growth. We're asking this court to provide us a mechanism to elect our choice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Rick Rose.
Judge, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak. I live in Arlington, Texas, and I am a Tea Party volunteer, both in the Lone Star Tea Party and the Arlington Tea Party. I am curious if this is about purely minorities being able to be represented, what are you going to do with Precinct 2? That would be my first question. I believe he is sitting back to my left. A constable, a minority who's been elected duly by his district to serve as a constable in this county. So I'm curious and wondering if this is a debate about minorities being represented, or is it a Republican-Democrat issue? Which party is going to serve in this county? The people of the United States and the people of Texas have told all of you, we want conservative leadership, fiscal responsibility, and to spend this kind of money to redistrict to give someone else an advantage, in my opinion, is ridiculous. Thank you for your time.
Marvin Sutton.
Commissioners, County Judge, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Marvin Sutton, and you've probably heard or alluded to the Sutton Mesa plan. I'll give you a little background about who I am and why I'm involved in this process. I moved to this area in 1992. I've been engaged. I'm an election judge, deputy voter registrar. I've registered over 500 people to vote. And day in and day out, I've seen the community evolve. A growing community, cohesive community, similar interests, community of interest, and you've heard that before. We have truancy in Arlington, whereas to a certain point, the city has offered a Crime Stoppers for $40 to report truancy. So those issues relate us. We have a huge apartment complex throughout 360 corridor. Those are some of the issues that the JP handles, evictions and truancies for the most part. So we'll move away from minorities. We'll talk about running a more efficient court. We'll talk about spending your money wisely. And so what I hope to bring is, in that particular map, if you look at it, the majority of our high schools are located in there, in that map. The majority of the apartment complexes lie in that map. So you take a court that's more efficient and can direct resources to that area, you run a more efficient, streamlined court. So without the minority being an issue, let's look at efficiency in our system of government. So politically, Andy is elected out of that same East sector, and it played a major role in your success. Would you agree? Absolutely. Robert Rivera, the council member in District 3, we had an opportunity to elect a person of our choice. And again, I'm asking, if we don't look at the minority issue, let's look at an efficient system of running our JP courts. And that's why I'm backing the Sutton Mesa or the minority plan. The legislators, the 85th legislators, look at that same district, emerging, booming, growth, and said, let's create a state district because it would be better serve that community. That's why it's created. So what I'm asking is that you create a district that we can elect a person of choice, not happen to be a minority, but also to benefit the courts, streamline and efficiency. That's all I'm asking. And that's why I back the Sutton Mesa plan. I have a letter of support from the communities, from LULAC, SCLC, NAACP in Grand Prairie, NAACP in Arlington, and the major pastors in the area as well. So I'm asking that you fully support this plan because it's the right plan to add efficiency to our system of government and JPs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Frank, I believe it is Deanworth, but I have been known to mispronounce names before. Mr. Jason Smith.
Good evening. My name is Jason Smith. I live in Fort Worth. May it please the court, County Judge Whitley and Mr. Manius, we do appreciate Commissioner Brooks moving this to an evening when people who have jobs during the day can speak about this very important issue. I'm very proud of my father, who's going to have his 91st birthday, who served during World War II. He lives out in Hearst, and he trained some minority pilots, and it was the very first thing. And when a lot of those soldiers came back after World War II, they wanted folks to have equal rights. So we passed the Voting Rights Act after a lot of struggle, after a lot of violence. But it made this country better because it guaranteed people's rights. The Sutton Mesa plan, named after Marvin Sutton and Terry Mesa, who are both leaders in the southeast Arlington, Tarrant County area, creates a minority opportunity district that satisfies the requirements under the Section 2 and Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. You'll see that the Texas legislature created House District 101 over here on the southeast part of the county. And they recognized that that was a minority opportunity district, this same area. So the Republican legislature and Governor Perry signed into law recognizing that this same area was a minority opportunity district under the legislative plan. It's going to be very hard to say now that the same area is not a minority opportunity district, and I don't think you can say it under the Voting Rights Act when you create a JP and constable precinct. This overlaps House District 101 entirely. There is a coalition of Hispanics and African Americans. The LULAC versus Perry case, which is a United States Supreme Court case, says under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, when there is a compact area of minorities that can elect candidates of their choice, where the citizen voting age population exceeds 50%, and it does in this proposed map with Precinct 7, then in that case they held that there was unlawful retrogression, and the state of Texas failed to create a sufficient number of minority districts. We believe that if the Commissioners Court fails to create the Minority Opportunity Precinct 7, that it likewise under LULAC versus Perry will fail to comply with the Voting Rights Act. But it's a coalition. It would serve a common community and a coalition of Hispanics, African Americans, and Asians that it meets the requirements of the Voting Rights Act. Therefore, I would ask the Commissioners Court to do the right thing, to give voice to minorities in that area and give them the opportunity to elect the candidate of their choice. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you listening to us on a Tuesday evening when I know you'd like to be with your family. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Douglas Smith.
Good evening, Judge Whitley, Commissioners. Thank you for having this meeting this evening. Listening to some of the other speakers, I keep hearing as a common theme to give everyone an equal opportunity to vote for the Justice of Peace and Commissioners for the constables for their respective community. I would suggest that they already have that. And that's evident with Commissioner Wynn, that's evident with the current people presiding in the offices, and what I'm seeing from my point of view is a scenario that's going to cause a lot of people in the northern area of District 2 a great deal of concern if they have to go to court, since the court is in the lower end of District 2, whereas with the original map, the courts are located near where the proposed lines are. So I'm opposed to any changes other than what the commissioners and the court has already presented, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Wendell Moser. Good evening.
Good evening, Your Honor, Whitley, and the commissioners. My name is Wendell Mosley.
Trust me, every Tuesday I take care of it and mess it up more times than not.
No need to apologize. I'm very grateful and want to give honor to all the people here in the court for hearing us out. I am a landlord, business owner, resident of Grand Prairie and that area around 360 that has sort of a schizophrenic representation in that we live in Tarrant County and we're a part of a city that's mostly in Dallas County and school district and Arlington and all of this. And I just wanted to tell you about my own personal experience in the Precinct 7 court. As a landlord last year, I came before the court in January. One of my tenants, I have 3 rental homes, and I went into the business hopefully to try to address a terrible need of housing and started renovating homes. Last year, one of my tenants had a problem. They tried to fix a faucet, ended up breaking it more. We ended up asking them to add that cost onto their rent. They didn't want to pay that, but they wanted to offer their rent. In the past, GPs have allowed that to, be combined because of it, according to the lease. But it was, I think our Judge Corbin is in the room too. He was presiding, and so I put in an eviction and for non-payment of rent. I had actually served notice in person to the House and then followed it up with a certified letter and then filed for an eviction the following Monday. I served a personal notice like on a Friday or so, and Thursday or Friday, and it ended up being something that the judge had said we weren't quite timely with the notice. It wasn't enough time because he used the time for the certified letter instead of the personal eviction. But to make a long story short, about the time we were being held for this hearing, the air conditioning went out of the house. I tried to get it fixed, and because of the summer being what it is, it's hard to get an AC guy out. They came out, saw that it was needed a part, couldn't get the part out in time, and so they were complaining about that, and so they decided to make a countersuit. And I understand the rules don't allow countersuits for evictions, but the judge in this case allowed it. And as a result, I ended up losing. I had to then find out from an attorney and retain an attorney to, get into my cost that, I appealed it and finally won it. But there was a lot of mishandling and a lot of expense on the part of the tenants and myself. There was a lot of misunderstanding. We need a better representation. We need to have people that understand the needs of people in that district. So please consider the new map. We need that type of representation, and we need to better handle these kind of cases. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Nancy Tice. Hi there.
Thank you, Judge. The way that I see this right now is I believe it's a last-minute ditch effort to bring a map, a minority opportunity map to the court. I think the court has done an excellent job in preparing the map that you have and have drawn for the precincts. And I don't think there needs to be a change, because I think that you want to be physically responsible. I think that as far as I do live in Precinct 2, I'm a precinct chairman there, and I'm a past city council member. I think you've done your job. I hope that you will adopt this map as the draft Plan A revised. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Kelly Cannon.
Good evening, Your Honor, and members of the court, commissioners. My name is Kelly Cannon, and I am a taxpayer, a Tea Party member, and I live in Arlington. This redistricting proposal was brought to my attention a few days ago, and I've had some time to study it in depth. The one striking aspect of the proposal lies in what will happen to Precinct 2. According to what I've had a chance to review, this plan enlarges District 2 so much so that it will require 2 places, 1 extra courthouse and the support administration that's going to help support that new courthouse. Who's going to pay for it? It's going to cost millions. And all for what? A so-called, although it was denied, a so-called all-minority district. The supporters of this effort so quickly pull the race card on conservatives like myself. This proposal is very racially motivated. We have elections in this country to send people to positions where they represent us in government issues. It's called a federation, federal government. It is a sad day when skin color motivates district lines. And whoever drew this proposal should be very ashamed. I urge you to vote for proposal Plan A. Thank you.
Linda Coleridge, or Claridge. Good evening.
I'm Linda Claridge, live in the city of Sampson Park. And my concern today, as it was after the 2000 census, is that my city has been divided. And part of us have to go to downtown Fort Worth, the Justice of the Peace, I think that would be 5, and then the rest go to 4. It's very difficult for the citizens of 5 to get downtown. We have no bus service. And I was hoping that we would be moved back into 4, where the citizens can help citizens get to the courthouse and the sub-courthouse. That's my offer to the court, and I hope you take that into consideration.
Thank you very much for coming out. Deborah Spell.
Transportation.
No. Spell, thank you for coming out.
Good evening, and
Good
thank
evening.
you for your time this evening. I'm a resident of Arlington. I'm also a election judge. I'm also a precinct chair. Arlington and Grand Prairie consist of a neighborhood of African American, Hispanic, and Asians. We're a very diverse community. We have increased our population and should have the opportunity to elect a justice of peace and constable that represent our community values and viewpoints. The redrawn map does not reflect the demographics represented of our community. The Sutton Mesa map reflects our community. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. And our last participation form is from JP number 2, Linda Davis.
Good evening, Judge and Commissioners. Well, I'm here to encourage you to adopt the first map that the JPs and the constables worked so very hard to put together. We spent many evenings together dividing these lines up where they're fair for everybody. And so I'm asking for your vote to adopt the plan number 1. Now, obviously on plan 2, then it has more impact on my precinct than any other precinct. And I take a lot of pride in running a very efficient court. I get comments all the time about what an efficient court we run and how efficient my clerks are. And I'm going to have to tell you that I have the highest volume of evictions in Tarrant County, highest volume of civil cases, small claims and justice cases, of any JP court in Tarrant County now with the old map. With the new map, I'm going to be asking you to reopen my budget because I'm going to need an associate judge and I'm going to need about 8 new clerks. It's not possible for one court to have this type of population in it. It's not possible. And so I urge you to not consider the map 2 and to adopt map number 1. That's the one that my constable, and all the other constables and the JPs in Tarrant County worked so very hard to be fair to everybody by adopting that map. And we do appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Now, at this time, before I close the public hearing, I'm going to once again ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak who has not had the opportunity to speak at this time. Yes, sir. You need to fill out an audience participation form. Okay.
Thank you, judges, and the people of the court. But I wasn't expecting to speak. But my name is Lenny Lopez. I wasn't expecting to speak. But I hear a lot about minority in respect to the NAACP and respect to LULAC. But they don't speak for me. I ran for justice of justice of the peace against a respected Republican. And it was because I wanted to give voice. I wanted to allow the minorities to have a voice as well. To run, I'm a conservative Republican, and opportunity is getting out the vote. But it seems like even the minority people don't get out the vote. I think just it's about the parties. Democrats want the positioning. So I beg you, I beg the court, I beg the people to open your eyes, and let's go with Plan 1. That's what we need. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
At this time, I'm going to close the public hearing, and before we adjourn, I want to thank everyone here. We obviously have different opinions, but I think everyone was respectful tonight, and I appreciate you allowing everyone to have an opportunity to come up, to be able to express their opinion and not feel like that their opinion was not being sought and being listened to. Mr. Mayes, would you like to make any closing observations?
Just one comment, Your Honor. There were some individuals who were asking for additional maps. We have additional maps out in the foyer outside the courtroom for those that might want to pick one up.
Okay. Court members, is there any comments that you would like to make at this time?
Can I make one comment?
Sure.
I wasn't planning to say anything, but I think out of respect for everybody, you have taken the time to be here. And the reason we are here is about minority representation. I'm a minority, obviously. I'm so minority that I don't even get my own column. But I was elected from a precinct that has less minority if you compare it to the Anglos. And looking at the Plan A revised, which is the original plan that we presented, in the precinct JP2, we have 48%, let me see if I look at this right. We're about 48% Anglo and 52% non-Anglo, okay? And JP7, we have the same ratio, 48% Anglo and 52% non-Anglo. This is, if you don't have a copy of this, I would encourage you to get a copy of it. Looking at the proposed, may I call it Plan B, in Precinct 2, we have a 60% Anglo, and you have 40% non-Anglo. So from a minority representation, Plan B actually reduces the representation of minority in Precinct 2, while it does increase the representation for a minority in Precinct 7, with 27% Anglo and 63% non-Anglo. And like I said, I want to be very upfront with everyone because I do have a lot of friends sitting on both aisles. And I want to be very upfront and very clear. As you know, I'm a new American, and I came here for the values of this country. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. And I came here to be an American, not to be a minority, not to be an Asian, or anything like that. I just want to be an American. And I tell you right now, looking at these numbers, and I work, Mr. Luis Castilla, Marvin, you are here. We have worked together in the Arlington areas for 10, 15 years.
Thank you for your service.
tell you, the challenge we have with the minority communities is the lack of engagement, not the lack of representation. And that's the honest truth. I have to call in A's and A's. Looking at this number, if we increase the number of voter registration from the minority community by about 5%, and if we learn to work together, then we will have representation. And that really is the challenge that I'm facing on a daily basis. So from my position as a commissioner being elected from a precinct that has basically a 60-40 ratio, I just want to let you know that it can be done. It's the quality of your idea and the quality of your leadership. It is not about the color of your skin. And I believe that. I want to thank you for your friendship. I don't know if I have stepped on any toes or not, but I promise you when I ran for this office that I will be frank and honest with you. And I am. Again, thank you for your time, for being here tonight.
Any other business? We are adjourned.